Hello, everyone, and welcome to another undersea episode of the Secret Origins of Incondition. I
Glug
am
glug
one of your
glug
hosts,
glug.
James, and I am thousands of miles down in the ocean floor in the heart of Atlantis. And joining me also here is Joe.
Yes, talk about damp. It's really damp down here,
Yeah, it's all
James.
water. We have like one of those those what deep sea diving
Oh
suits
yeah,
on.
Diver
Unless
Dan. Hey, Rich, you remember Diver Dan, don't you, from back in the
yeah,
day?
unless
Okay.
we have like a magical enchantment that allows us to breathe underwater or something. But why are we all the way down deep in the ocean, Atlantis? Because we are finally getting to one of the cornerstone members of the Justice League. This is the first time I think where he has his own episode. In fact, I know it's the first time this character has had an episode on this podcast.
Yes.
300 episodes later, we are talking about Aquaman, and not just Aquaman. We are talking about the current run of Aquaman, done by one of our favorite DC writers, friend of the show, Jeremy Adams, with art by who's the art team on this run? This is
It's Tim's. That's his first name. Let's see. I forget. It's
uh
John Timms.
so and audience, this will probably also be a primer for Aquaman because this is other than Peter David, who I'm sure we're going to talk about also because you can't talk Aquaman without the late great Peter David.
Mm-mm.
Where this will also probably be a primer for Aquaman. I should say up ahead, spoilers if you have not read the first 1 through 8 issues of Aquaman. Not that we do a breakdown, but we will be talking about details. I have questions for Joe. And I guess spoilers if you've not read any Aquaman, because I have questions for Joe about the history of the
I
character.
hope I
So,
can answer them. If not, I hope you're out there, Steve.
so Joe, Aquaman, I think unfairly, or fairly or unfairly, I think in the comic book universe was always sort of not respected like the other heroes. I think by like the younger generation
Right.
in the '90s.
He's the butt of jokes on Family Guy.
Yeah, the better jokes on Family Guy. Probably the well. I mean, I was about to say like probably his depiction in Super Friends like gave maybe a certain audience who grew up with him a certain idea about the character, but then like you could say that about any superhero appeared on the Super Friends back in the day.
Yeah.
But now there's all things we love. Actually, it's so funny how things change as you get older.
Oh yeah, because you look back on your youth and the times you were growing up with fondness. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the '66 Batman. Well, not my Batman. I still have a place in my heart
Oh,
for Adam West as
I
Batman.
love it. I love Batman
So
66.
you can't deny what Adam West did and
And Burt Ward. Hmm.
Burt Ward. But my question is, Aquaman has this history, of not being a top tier character. I think Peter David obviously made him a top tier character. I think the work of Grant Morrison and Mark Waid and JLA made him a top tier
Jeff
character.
Johns, the new 52.
Jeff Johns, and then obviously Jeremy Adams, who we're here to talk about, has made him a top tier character again. But what's your history? You've been with the character the longest, so what is the arc of this character?
Wow. Okay. As I've stated before, Aquaman is in my top five of favorite superheroes. These things change, but it's usually Superman, Wally West, Spider Man, Aquaman, and Batman. Those are my top five. And one of the very first comics I ever read in the summer of '66 was an Aquaman comic. I should have pulled it out. It was at number 28. I pulled a lot of stuff. I didn't pull that one out. But yes, and yeah, even back then, friends would make fun of me. Yeah, you read that Aquaman book? He talks to fish. I liked it. I liked the look of it. I didn't know why I liked the art. It was Nick Cardy. Now I know from years of experience that Nick Cardy is one of the greatest comic book artists in the history of the medium. That's probably mostly why I like the character, the comic. To put Aquaman in perspective, I got some flash facts. Aquaman, I have this by the way is a facsimile. I wish I owned this comic book. Small Fun Comics number 73, cover date 1941. And this is not only the introduction and debut of Aquaman, but also Green Arrow.
Wow. And
Yeah,
Dr.
right?
Fate's on the cover. For our
And Dr. Fate, yeah,
for our
he was,
listeners,
yeah,
Dr. Fate's on the cover.
Dr. Fate's on the cover, right?
And so what dark was it? So it's Aquaman and who was the other character?
Green Arrow.
And were
So
they both like his side stories? Well, I guess you
they were like two 8-page stories, yeah, yeah.
okay. Was
And
fun comics like the Journey into Mystery of its time, or these Tales
it
to
was
Astonish?
just one of the DC anthology books like
Okay.
Adventure Comics and Comics Cavalcade, and you can go on and on. But yes, and of course, Aquaman was created by Phil Norris, the artist, and the writer is a name that I know Richie Kranjak's going to recognize. It was Mort Weisinger,
Hmm.
who was the guy that basically created Silver Age Superman. When he took over in the mid '50s, he's responsible for Supergirl, The Legion of Superheroes, Fortress of Solitude, Laura Lamaris, who figures into
Wow.
this story, and red kryptonite, green, yellow kryptonite, all of the color, gold kryptonite. But yes, the Bizarros. So Mort Weisinger, and then Mort Weisinger went to Hollywood in '53 and did 3 years of story editing on the Adventures of Superman.
Wow.
So yeah, so Aquaman's got a good lineage. He's got a couple of good parents. So that was the beginning of Aquaman, first appearance, and unfortunately, his feature was prominent and was in every issue. He never got a cover appearance until I'll show you. This is now I have a copy of this, but I didn't take it out because it's too expensive. This is a facsimile of Brave and the
Of
Bold
course.
28, and that's the you see Aquaman up in there. They're fighting Starro, and that's Aquaman's very first cover appearance.
Wow.
By the way, this facsimile recolored the gloves; they were yellow back in
Oh
the
yes, I
day,
think we talked about it. An audience
right?
member is Justice League. I'm sorry, Justice League.
Brave and the
Brave and
Bold
the Bold
28.
number 28. We have a whole separate episode on that Joe and I did,
Yep. Oh yes.
where I first read this comic
Please
book.
check that out.
Yeah.
So, I have a few other books here, but yes, Aquaman. Basically, he lived in adventure comics. He moved out of more fun, and for the next 20 plus years, he was a prominent backup feature in adventure comics.
Hmm.
Other characters came and went, but he was there. A little side history with the Golden Age. At the end of World War II, most superheroes started to go into, just started to disappear. By 1951, the JSA was gone, and
Wow.
only Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman survived with their own comic books. But Green Arrow and Aquaman survived that entire period because they were backing up in action, adventure comics, World's Finest Comics, popping up here and there in back of other features. So it's really 5 superheroes that survived the Golden Age of DC: Supes, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and Green Arrow. Just want to look at
Wow.
that. Don't want to leave Green Arrow. It's very important. We'll get to him someday too. Well, we'll get to him next week, aren't we? Doing Quitter next week?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
You have to do this again, Joe.
Yeah, a little preview. That we'd like to do that.
You're gonna have to do the arc of Oliver Queen for that episode too. So
Yes, yeah, we will. I'll save some of this stuff. Aquaman's first solo book, what they used to call back in the day, a complete comic book novel, was this Showcase number 30 from 1961, and that's a Nick Cardy cover, yeah. And there were 4 of these, and this sold so well that a year later, he got this book, Aquaman #1, also
wow.
with a Nick Cardy cover.
Hmm.
And Aquaman needed an origin because his origin was never really established. He was just a guy who was out in the sea hunting down pirates and people like that, smugglers. So in Adventure Comics number 260, dated March 1960. No, that's the wrong day. I'm sorry. May 1959. It's a Superboy cover, as you can see, because he was a star. But Aquaman was a back feature, and this is considered the first Silver Age Aquaman story where they give you his origin, where we finally learn about his father, Thomas Curry, and the lighthouse, and his
Wow.
mother, the Queen of Atlantis, Atlanta. So I think that brings us up to date. Yeah. Oh, one more. And in Aquaman number 11, we finally meet Mira. There she's on the
Okay.
cover. Yeah.
Wow.
Who also figures greatly in these first story arcs. So that's a brief history of, and I think I said this before, James. I don't know if I said it on the program here, but maybe to Keith and some other people. We have the Trinity, right? We have Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. I think we have to come up with a different name, and we have to include Aquaman as an equal to those 3, especially now that Jerry's really, powered him up. But I think he's been that before that. I would put Aquaman in the DC pantheon above. I'm sorry, Keith, and I love Wally. I would put him above Wally. I would put him above Barry and Hal, and LaMarche and John Jones. I think he should be standing shoulder to shoulder with Clark, Bruce, and Diana. So that's just my opinion, but that's a brief history of Arthur Curry, aka Aquaman, the King of the Seven Seas.
What do you
So,
think? Well, I got 2 questions before we
go
kind of
ahead.
maybe transition to Jeremy Adams. But what do you think like made Aquaman like I guess for a lesser term, like pre Peter David, pre JLA? What made him like more of a C-list character instead of like the A character? Like, was it like did sales not go? Did he get like not the writers weren't great? Did DC not know what to do with the character for a period of time?
Well, in this book here that I showed before, his first his first outing in his own book. This book ran for 56 issues from 1960 to I think or through 69, 70. It was always a bi-monthly book. And back in DC in those days, if you sold bi-monthly, that meant you sold somewhere around 200,000 copies.
Wow.
Yeah, which would be great today, right?
Yeah, it would be
But,
great. Some any comic book writer and artist would be happy to have
yeah, I mean, the
200,000
only thing
copies.
approaching that today is Absolute Batman.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't think the character was popular because people didn't respect him, and I don't know if DC didn't respect him. They just figure, oh, he's over there on the side. You know, he's in the Justice League. He's kind of like Green Arrow, Martian Manhunter, but he did have his own series where they didn't. So he was a joke character. I think what pushed Aquaman, and you mentioned it already, what pushed him partially into the limelight was the Super Friends. You know, why would they pick Aquaman? Why would it be? Why not Green Lantern or the Flash, right? Or Hawkman for that matter? He picked Aquaman, and I think that kind of established Aquaman as a pillar of the DC universe. And from there, you had different series that went on and on, you know, in the back of Adventure Comics. They brought this book back for a while, renumbering lasted a year or two. Then, of course, we get a couple of mini series, and then we get the Peter David series, and I think that's what really sealed the deal. Peter David's Aquaman series, because he gave him a different look when he chopped off his hand, right?
Yeah.
And Aquaman was before that was kind of like just a superhero. He was a good guy, but Peter David makes him, you know, this. I don't want to say an environmental terrorist. He's not that obviously, but he's concerned about his undersea kingdom being literally trashed by the people living up in the land and dumping their garbage down there. So it gives him an edge. They gave Aquaman an edge. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess like and I probably know the answer, but I'm just curious. Would you say Peter David is sort of the I guess the definitive origin perhaps of Aquaman? Like, you know how like Frank Miller is the Batman definitive origin, John Burns Superman, maybe not definitive, but the person who put him on the map.
I would say Peter so. David? He wrote that book. It ran over 80 issues. He didn't write the entire run. I think Eric Larson took over for a while as writing it, and then the last year was written and penciled by Dan Jurgens. That's a beautiful comic book too. But I think Aquaman, Peter David moved Aquaman from C-list character to B or B plus, definitely, without a doubt. Yeah.
Yeah, and because I don't know timelines, and we've been, you know, we're very Crisis centric since we finished the Crisis last year. Mm-hmm. When did Aquaman come back after the Crisis?
When did Aquaman come back after the Crisis? See, right after the Crisis, Man of Steel, Longbow Hunters, Hawk World. It was probably the Peter David miniseries that led to the ongoing series. I would say around 1990. Steve Perel, okay. If you can check me on that, I'd appreciate it. But he probably appeared elsewhere, you know, as guesting in some books. I remember being in an issue of Superman around that time, also. So, yeah. It took a while after the Crisis to get Aquaman back up to speed, but they did. You know, it's amazing that they went first to Hawkman and Adam before they went to Aquaman, who'd been around. Hawkman had been around before Aquaman, by the way. So
yeah,
from that golden age.
Well, I'm finding it very interesting now that like we did that deep dive into Crisis, and this year, especially in the podcast so far, we're sort of diving into books that are definitive books of that, and it's just hearing the context of like, I know you didn't get a chance to be a part of it, but when Chris and I did a Justice League episode on New World Order, I didn't realize that book was so important because that was like the first official JLA book since the Crisis. Like you had Justice League of America, you had Justice League Europe, and Justice League International. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But JLA by Grant Morrison and then Mark Waid was like the bringing JLA back to the flagship status, and I didn't realize that was
almost 10 years after the Crisis, right?
Yeah. So it's really interesting comic book history wise how, like, again, how much space DC gave for these characters before they like relaunched them officially after post Crisis.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a few things. They couldn't find somebody to write the book. They had so many characters that they wanted to give attention to, and I think Aquaman just fell by the wayside for a while at that point. But Peter David comes along, and there's that 4-issue miniseries. I can't remember the title of it. I know Keith knows it, and then he gets an ongoing. Actually, there was an ongoing before the 4-issue miniseries that lasted 13 issues. That's right. Hmm. And Kevin McGuire, I think, did the artwork in that one.
Oh, interesting.
Could be
Okay.
wrong about that. But there was a Superman team up in that run that lasted a year, and then possibly a little hiatus, and then boom, Peter David comes to the rescue. He
Very
rescues the
nice.
Hulk and he rescued Aquaman.
Again,
Yeah.
we have a whole episode on Peter David. Audience, if you want to hear more about the late great Peter David, talking about not just Aquaman and Hulk, but everything else, the things he did for Star Trek. So
Yeah,
please check
Star
that
Trek,
out if you have not
X Force, yes.
done that already. But
Yeah.
well, Joe, and that brings us to modern day, where,
Yeah.
like I said,
Well, here's the
top writer at
cover
DC,
of Aquaman #1.
Aquaman #1 by Jeremy
Jeremy Adams
Adams.
and John Timms.
You were, I actually read this book digitally, issue 1, when it came out, just because you were talking about it so much. And then I waited for the trade, not because it was bad, just because it's expensive to buy books these days. So
Yeah, well, yes.
but audience, we're going to dive in to the current run, and I think, Joe, before the mics went hot, you were just saying like how this is not it's a superhero action book in only the way Jeremy Adams can give us superhero action.
It's a superhero action fantasy book.
I was going to say yes. I was thinking about that too, because it's
a lot of magic
you have
involved.
sword and sorcery. You have
It's
monsters.
coming underwater,
Yeah,
basically.
it's going
Yeah.
underwater.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Keith, if you're out there, you said you're going to be diving into this. So there's going to be spoilers. So at this point, you might want to turn off the podcast and come back to it after you've read at least issues 1 through 9, because we're going to spoil some stuff. Just wanted to give you a heads up.
So I guess to set the audience up, when we first meet Aquaman, we're the DC All-In era, which is post Absolute Power.
Absolute power.
So Aquaman has some new powers because
hydrokinesis.
Hydrokinesis, yes.
Don't ask me to spell
it. So he can control and manipulate water now. In addition, can he still talk to the underwater sea
he could command. Yes, he could command the denizens of the deep, and he now has Mirren's power. Remember, because of absolute power. Is that what it called? What was it called again?
Absolute power.
Superpowers went awry. They switched around. Lois Lane got General Zod superpowers, and Aquaman got his wife's hydrokinesis powers. So yeah.
So we meet him basically running Atlantis, and he's pretty bored.
He's bored. He doesn't mind being interrupted by Jackson there, and he's got to sit there and listen to heads of state and all this boring, all this boring stuff. And I got to get out of here, man. I mean, if you were Spider-Man, you go web swinging.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna show you because I know these characters somewhat, especially a little bit from the Young Justice TV series. But who is Garth and who is Jackson?
Well, Garth, I should have wrote that down. I'm sorry. Garth was introduced as Aqualad back in Adventure Comics. It was after the 260 issue that it showed. Not too much after. I should have pulled that out. I do own that comic book. Garth was found on a rock because he was banished from Atlantis because he had purple eyes.
Okay.
This is the 1960s again, early 60s, so things were like, written for 8-year-olds. They expound upon that later on. But as the years went on, Garth became a magic wielder. And he was an original member of the Teen Titans, Robin, Wonder Girl, Kid Flash, and Aqualad. And he was around with them for a long time. He even showed up in the Wolfman and Perez run for a while. So yeah, he wasn't Aquaman's son. Some people believe no. That came later on, Aquaman's son. But Aqualad was Garth, or as he's now known as Tempest.
Yes. Tempest, that's right, Tempest. And who's Jackson?
Jackson came on the scene. I don't recently. I don't know how. I don't know if he was born Atlantean or got his powers a different way. But for a while there, DC looked like they were going to when they were going to supposedly replace Clark with Jonathan as the new Superman. They were going to replace Arthur with Jackson as the new Aquaman. But these characters just pop up out of nowhere. We don't know their backstories. They tell you they're great, but they don't show you why. So it didn't work. But I'm glad he stayed around because he's a cool character. I like him. So I'm glad Jeremy brought him back. and used him because for a while he was there. He was there for a while and boom, he disappeared.
Mm.
So it's good that Jeremy.
Jeremy
He's
doesn't
got a big
forget.
toy box, obviously.
Yeah, he's big
So
in continuities, as he
yep,
said here in his interviews here.
yeah.
And
Paxton's a cool character.
and Mira, like when they met in that issue, that what was the issue that you showed
Issue number 11.
of
Yes,
Aquaman?
Aquaman. Yes, the
Were
original one.
they like were they immediately in love and married, or was that thing
No,
that
no,
took?
no, no. She came from the world of Zebel. Now, according to this series, Zebel is a kind of like a Devil's Island of Atlanteans that were ousted, right? They're kind of like it was like a penal colony. I don't remember if that was the case. I'm not sure if they got along right away. I should have reread that today. It's been years since I reread that issue, but they eventually do get along and they fall in love and they have a child.
Mira, like I know very little about the Aquaman and Mira situation, but it seems like a little bit like Doctor Strange and Clea. It's kind of
Yeah,
relationship.
yeah, yeah. She always had those hard water powers. It's. Have you ever seen the Aquaman cartoons, filmation cartoons from the '60s?
No, I've not. I'm not. I mean, I've
Uh,
seen like maybe clips of it, but I've not
yeah,
seen.
Mira's the damsel in distress, but she wasn't in the comic book, by the way. And they that was the first time they took her hydrokinesis away from her. They gave it to Aquaman because
Uh,
Aquaman was forming hard water balls and hard, walls of water to defeat criminals in those 6 minute cartoons. And they were riding seahorses. Okay. Uh, Storm and Imp were the seahorses, yes.
giant seahorses.
Giants, oh, yes, very big seahorses. Uh, but those are good cartoons. The animation is excellent in those cartoons.
Yeah.
It's one of the better
So
filmation offerings.
So to say like, so thank you for the backstory and all the characters.
You're
So these are all the characters in Atlantis when we start off this issue one, and Aquaman's bored, and then he goes, and then we're also in the DC All In audience. So not to get into all that, but obviously Darkseid died, and his
mm-hmm.
energy created the absolute universe, but there's a residual of Darkseid energy left on planet Earth that the Justice League and others have been looking into, and Aquaman is called away from Atlantis to deal with some kind of monster. And when he tries to go back, Atlantis
Gone.
is gone.
It's gone. And he goes through that I don't know if you can see that. I should have opened up number 1, but there's the Omega Gate, right?
Yeah, the Omega Gate, or what he doesn't know, the Omega Gate. He's just this pearl
Right.
is the only thing that's left.
Yes, because Omega energy is infusing into our universe. Yeah, it's there's. I mean, this story has been touched upon before, with either Atlantis disappearing or some tragedy coming to Atlantis. Um, Also, it's been done to death in Marvel and Submariner. It seemed like every other issue, Submariner was losing Atlantis, and I don't even know if it exists anymore in the Marvel universe. I think it does, but I'm not sure about that. But yeah, in the artwork in this book, I mean, there's a lot of 2 page. Well, that's great. Aquaman coming out of the mud there.
Yeah, there's beautiful stuff.
There's some really cool stuff. This is John Timms. Well, he's learning about his powers. That's right. He's learning about because he learns about the prophecy that he's the dark tide, and he's learning that wherever there's water, he can start controlling it, including even where there's no water, as one of the villains says. Well, that what was her name? Jenny something or other. Yeah, I can't think of her.
The
Jenny,
mermaid, right?
Yeah, the mermaid, right?
Oh,
Jenny,
Lori. I think Lori, right?
no, Lori. That's Lori. Lori starts out bad in this because she's gone on the wrong side. But there's Jenny something or other here, the one with the green face.
Oh, right, the possessed. Yeah, so audience,
Yes,
like,
yes.
yeah. It's there's just to so Aquaman, just to I guess catch people up. Aquaman goes through what we find out is an Omega Gate. He
Mm-hmm.
goes into another dimension, I guess. Is
Yep.
it
Oh
like
yeah.
another
Mm-hmm. It's like another dimension. Yeah.
where all of the water, which is the blue, is being controlled by
It's been
an evil
confiscated by Dagon, the demon Dagon. Yes.
demon Dagon. Yeah.
Yes. And he's able to. Well, he says, "Well, there may be no water here, but there actually is because I can extract the blood from your veins, and because there's water there. And this is where he meets in prison. He meets Arion.
Is
I
that a
should have
previous character?
Oh yeah, Arion had a short life book back in the '80s, written by Roy Thomas. I can't remember who the artist was. I don't think I have any more. I think I have number one, but I think I sold those when I sold a lot. My extra space, like 40 boxes after we shuttered mid condition. I needed some money, but yes, Arion's been around forever. I think he's mentioned in the Atlantis Chronicles, which is also written by Peter David.
That's right. Yeah.
So yeah, so that's a cool character. I was surprised to see him back. And as we continue on in this series, we're going to meet some other characters that are drawn from different, um, you know, um, periods in fiction, right? The Lady of the Lake, Viviana,
Yeah. Who Arthur saves because she's
right?
possessed by an infection.
She's infected by that woman, the Jenny, whatever. I can't remember Jenny's last name.
Yeah, I can't remember. But Arthur saves her and frees the Lady of the Lake, and then is it the third issue, I guess, where we have like real sword and sorcery, where Vivian and Arion forge a new magical trident for Arthur.
Uh-huh. Yeah, they take some of his blood, right, and they forge this trident, which is becomes part of him basically. Here they are forging it right here.
Yep, and Arthur, they take some of his blood and put it in it, so it's fused with his essence. Funny thing, Joe, because I know you don't watch social media. Back when that issue came out, or around when that issue came out, Jeremy Adams posted a video where for the artist, to give the artist a conceptualization of the trident, he built it. Like he made it out of like cardboard and paper,
He
where it
did.
showed like it could become a trident and a sword. And he
Your
was
sword.
like,
Wow, that's
"Yeah,
cool.
that's a very cool weapon. It's
You
both
should
a
have
sword."
patented it, but I guess it belongs to DC.
Yeah, but it's cool. I was like, "Oh, this is a really cool weapon. It could be a long sword or it can turn into his trident."
He's had to try it in the past, but it's usually been ceremonial, rarely ever a weapon. But and this Aquaman, I mean, he's pissed off because his entire city is gone, his wife and his child are gone, so he's out for blood. This is not your grandpa or your pop's Aquaman. This is not the guy who was made fun of all those decades. This guy is a badass, and I love it. I think he's
Do you
great.
think he's tougher than David's Aquaman, or is he about as tough?
I think he's tougher. I think he's more. I think he's well. I think the circumstances in this particular story arc make him a more single-minded because he's got to find his home and his wife. So I think that brings out a part of him that we hadn't seen before. Uh, uh, you know, what's his name? Mr. David's Aquaman was pretty tough, but I think this guy is he's bewildered at times too because he's afraid of the power that's within him. Also, right? He's not so sure of himself. So, and that comes up later on in the series. But
Well, he
yes,
falls like into this prophecy that he's the Dark Tide,
he's the Dark Tide. Yes,
and he doesn't know what that means. And
he's going to
it's
discover
a
it.
real fantasy like adventure team building book because every like issue he gets Arion, he gets Vivian, he gets his like sword trident. He's picking up pieces. He eventually, and I loved it because I'm a fan of classical literature. We eventually get Captain Nemo as part of
Captain
the team,
Nemo. Thank you.
which I
Right.
think I thought that was awesome. I'm surprised DC never had a Captain Nemo before. I was
Right. Yeah,
so I'm assuming this is the first DC introduction of Captain Nemo as a character.
I believe it is. Yes.
And then we get the thing going all the way back to Super Friends.
When we get Zan, right? Yeah.
Zan,
Is that the end of issue 5? I believe.
5 or 6.
Let's
He's like,
see. Yeah, it's 6. It is 6. Yes. So you get So yeah, they're building what's going to become known as Justice League Blue. Now you mentioned Laurie before. Laurie Lamaris is a Silver Age character that was introduced in the late 50s in Superman comics. And when Superman was in college, he fell in love with Laurie, and they almost were married. But she since then has been a part of Superman's lore. Of course, she's an LL like Lois Lane and Lana Lang and Lex Luthor and the Supergirl's Leslie Lar. So yeah, but Laurie is right now. She's been possessed. Well, she's not. I don't say she's been possessed by Dagon. She's just believes in his cause. And
well, it seems like she's like an opportunist. Like
yeah,
he's the person in power, and most of the underwater inhabitants in this dimension are all just like it's hard to have resistance because Dagon basically wipes out any resistance. So
yeah.
she seems
Aquaman
like an
tells you you have a choice, and she goes, "No, I don't have a choice because, like you said, if you don't fall in line with Dagon, you're going to be eliminated." Right? Exactly.
yeah. Now is she like a deep cut pull or is she like common? Because I never knew that like Clark.
Well, oh,
Like,
they were. I mean, I should have pulled my Superman Volume 1 Omnibus Silver Age. There's two stories in there where they first meet and then they meet up again. The second time they meet, he's established as Superman. He's not in college anymore. He's in Metropolis. Um, but they had a torrid love affair. They really did. And, for that time, for a 12-page story and what you could do it in, you're writing for 8 to 10-year-olds. But they were very much in love. You've been reading World's Finest, right? There's
I have been. I'm not current,
Okay,
so
well,
the last thing I read was all our yesterdays.
okay.
So
Then you got past the arc where Laurie pops up again. There's that whole arc with Aquaman in there. That's
maybe
Laura
I missed that
Lemaris.
because I didn't read the Eclipso arc.
Okay, that I think it comes after the Eclipso arc, but there's an arc in there with Aquaman and Laurie. Yeah. Good.
I'm
And
just curious, like, Jeremy Adams, like, because I never knew about this. Obviously, that's easy to say because I'm not the hardcore Superman like you and Richie are. But I was like, wow, Jeremy Adams must be flexing his Mark Waid like knowledge chops here with like bringing in like this character into this universe.
I think I think Jeremy's almost on par with Mark Waid at this point. I saw him just last week. He did 2 or 3 um, interviews in the last month, and I think he mentions that he would bounce some stuff off of Mark Waid, or he would go to Mark Waid to get validation about this character and who this character was, and when was the last time it was seen, things like that. So he has worked with Mark Waid and taken advantage of his vast knowledge of the DC universe. Why wouldn't you? The guy's
Of course,
a
yeah.
walking DC encyclopedia, Mark Waid. So yeah.
So we see Zan from the Wonder Twins.
Without
Half of the
I didn't know his power could work without him, tapping his sister's hand. They had to touch each other to make their powers work, right?
I was going to ask you, this is not the first time they've become part of DC canon, right? Were they?
Oh
Were
no,
they?
they even had a miniseries a few years ago. Yeah,
Okay.
when DC was doing, I think, Wonder Comics under the banner of Wonder Comics.
Oh, okay.
They had a
Okay.
short miniseries. They put them in high school. For me, it was for 12-year-olds.
Well, they were originally invented for the cartoon, right? Or am I wrong?
They replaced Wendy, Marvin, and Wonder Dog.
I remember Wendy Marvin. I mean, I can't remember episodes, but I know of them from the promotional material and like the Alex Ross did a Super Friends cover and they were on it at some point. So
Well, Zan and Jaina and Blip, and this is Super Friends was Hanna-Barbera, and so was Space Ghost. They were very much like, yeah, right? It's
Jason and Jane, yeah.
Yeah, it's the same 3 characters with just different names, and they did give them superpowers. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, it's cool. Like I said, what we think is silly now is like canon in our minds. So it's cool to see him take a character who is probably jokey, and we probably didn't look as highly upon as some of the other characters in Super Friends, and now Jeremy is taking this character and
I think he put him in there for comic relief because everybody is so dour. The further they get into the blue, and the closer they get to hopefully the lost Atlantis, people are so grim. And Aquaman's mission, he's scowling all the time, and and Zan, I don't know where he's Aquaman. He'll take care of it. He's got this is in the can. Nothing's going to go wrong. So I think he's there as comic relief, and but he's very powerful in his own way, and it's.
Well, they found him in the zombie basically issue.
He was in a jar. He's kind of like they open it up and this little bubble comes out, and it's Zan. When I saw that, I thought, oh, this is so freaking cool. Wow, only Jeremy could take this character that nobody liked and make him likable and very important to the narrative.
And the blue, just to for audience members, so the blue is basically audience, the elemental powers have different allegiances. We've spoken many times about Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing is the green. He's in touch with the green. He's an elemental of the green, which is all plant life. Well, not just Earth. If you go by Alan Moore, it's all plant life across the universe.
Same thing with the blue here, right? It's across the galaxy.
And the red, which is Animal Man's, I guess, avatar, is all animal or human life across the... or no, not animal, like all mammals.
Isn't it meat? Isn't it referred to as meat?
Is it meat life? Or is that what they call it?
Well, I think they've referred to it as meat. I think... and Aquaman is the blue water. I think for a while... Hey, Keith, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at the end of Firestorm's run back in the 90s, he was the air elemental, Firestorm.
Oh, okay.
Or was he the fire elemental? I don't remember. But
Oh, I think he might. Well, yeah, I don't know. He might have been the fire
yeah,
elemental.
it was a fire. So who's the air?
I didn't read the book. I just remember the costume
Oh,
change where he was.
I think at one point Red Tornado was the air elemental.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
Firestorm. I don't know. I just remember.
yeah,
I'm guessing
Firestorm's
by the
air.
costume change that he was
Yeah,
the
it makes
fire
sense to
elemental.
fire something fire, not air.
You know,
Although you can't have fire without air, i.e., oxygen. But yeah,
I mean, it's cool that they're tying in all these. Like, it's a very magical book. Like you said, it's fan. It really is
it is.
Conan under the water.
It's Conan under the water. Yeah, I mean Conan would visit strange cities and strange places, and usually he'd fall in love with some gorgeous temptress who would then try to stab him in the back, which is
It's
what
also
Glory
very Lord
does.
of the Rings a little bit too,
Yeah,
because they are on a mission.
yeah.
They're trying to like stop this villain. They keep stopping along the way and having adventures where
And the pearl is like the ring, right? The
the
pearl is
pearl's like
very
the ring.
important. Yeah,
Yeah,
we haven't talked
yeah,
about the pearl, right? But yes.
yeah. And because that was the only thing left over when Atlantis disappeared, which is how we
Uh-huh.
got into the Omega Gate.
Exactly.
And I guess it's a little vague to me just because I haven't read every book. Like I said, I think DC's doing a really good job with their All In initiative, where all their books are individual stories, but they also tie into one overarching story with the Omega energy. But um, was this dimension created by the Omega, by what Darkseid did, or did they say like how
Did I
Dagon became controller of the blue?
I just feel that he usurped it because I think he was you know what? We can't talk about that because that's the next arc, and I don't really want to be super spoilery. But
Okay, yes, well, I don't want to spoil it either.
something
So
happens in the next arc that I think explains that and how Dagon and this villain of the next arc. You'll be surprised at who it is because that person is in this story. So there's a traitor,
okay,
but yeah, they tapped into the Omega energy. Dagon tapped into it. Yes, I
okay.
believe, and this is also that other villain.
So
So
this
yeah,
ties into what happens with what's happening with
oh, it's
Darkseid.
all tied in. Yeah,
Okay.
Aquaman is now the avatar of the oceans everywhere. He can ride them to any destination, and his new power puts him, I think, on equal footing with Superman and Wonder Woman. I really do.
Well, he's an elemental, so he's probably as strong as the other elementals too. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I know in that KO round he fought Hawkman, so water versus air, I guess. But I'd like to see this Aquaman, go up against Swamp Thing.
I was gonna
That would
say,
be,
he probably can beat Swamp Thing because Swamp Thing feeds off the blue.
yeah. I mean, that's you think about that. He's the avatar of the green, but the green can't exist without the blue, right?
Well, that the implied in this book, like Jeremy wrote, is that like I said, the red and the blue can't exist without the red and the green can't exist without
It's,
the blue.
yeah, exactly. That's right. I remember that. Yeah, I forgot what issue. I should have wrote that down.
Because they
I'm
even
glad you
threw.
did,
I
Joe.
was like, oh, Swamp Thing made a cameo. They put a cameo of Swamp Thing in.
No, it's at this point, and when you get into the next story arc, you're going to see Aquaman. I like to call him Arthur. You're going to see Arthur um, questioning his powers because they're starting to increase exponentially almost, and he's starting to and the people that were his Justice League Blue comrades are starting to is he getting too powerful? So
Mm.
we'll see. I think there's something coming at some point. I think Jeremy mentioned that in one of his recent interviews. How powerful he goes! I can't believe you let me do this. Jeremy Rose says that, and he's like, have I overpowered him? And there are people who have tried to say that this is really absolute Aquaman, but no, it's not. It firmly takes place in whatever this Earth is called, Prime or One or Zero, whatever the hell they call it, and you'll see that in issue number 9, which I think I have here. If I can find it, I'll hold it up to you. You'll see that 8 and okay. And you see on the cover Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is kind of like the denouement or the epilogue of the first story, and it also sets up it's also the prologue to the next story, issue number
Which
9.
is Emperor Aquaman, right?
Well, that's going to lead to it. Yeah, you get through this through issues 9 to 14, and then at the end, at the end of 14, it says coming Emperor Aquaman. Yes, so it's out already, that book, but I get my books once a month from DCBS. I'll probably be getting them um, either this weekend or probably early next week. I can't wait to read that. You know, it's
I
been
mean, it was the first 8 issues. Like one, it's a long story arc, which
yep,
is like this is why it took us a while, audience, to get here because this Jeremy Adams did an 8 issue story arc for the first volume, and seems like it probably could have gone to 9, but Jeremy didn't. He wasn't making like a tight story that fits into 5 or 6 issues. He's going for an epic here, and
Yes, yeah.
the issue 8 ends. It's kind of sad.
Oh, it's very
When he
sad. I
finally
mean,
gets to Atlantis, again, spoilers, audience, spoilers. He finally gets to Atlantis. He realizes he's in a time jump because everybody
yeah,
in Atlantis is what 30 or 40 years in the future, maybe
yeah. I
longer.
mean, Mira is a woman of very advanced years, and Jackson and Garth are now older than Aquaman, older
Yeah,
than Arthur. Yeah,
so maybe it could like 50 or 60. I mean, who knows? Like,
yeah, yeah.
or it could be hundreds of years. I don't know how fast Atlanteans age, but it could be.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. That's a good point. I don't know if this ever been. I think that was touched upon. I don't know if it was touched upon in the Peter David run, but I remember somewhere it was touched upon that Aquaman and the denizens of the underwater world would age slower than people air breathers for different reasons, not the least of which is all the pollution up here. But yeah, so
And
Atlanteans may
then
age at a different rate and might be more long lived. Yeah.
yeah, he gets there and Mira dies, but he also gets to meet he gets to meet his grown child, his grown daughter, Adriana,
Adriana or Andrina. No, Andrina.
Andrina.
I had a nun named Sister Andrina. She was tough. Yeah, and I
So we
saw
get
it. I
to
said,
meet
"Oh
it.
my God, it's Sister Andrina!" Oh God.
So we
Yeah.
get to Mira, because obviously she's upset with her father because he should have been there. Meanwhile, he's it's it's sort of it's like I wouldn't say it's a trope, but it's a story we've seen before where the hero like is a hero at a time and misses their child growing up, and
And the
like
child feels like they've been not abandoned, but they feel like it's I don't know my father, and she doesn't because she was a baby when
and we don't even know how old she is, but based on how Atlanteans age. I mean, she's a grown woman, but who knows?
when
She
he
could be
first saw her, he thought she was Mira, right? When he first saw
yeah,
her, she's the
yeah,
spitting image of her mother, right?
right,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I would guess she's in her probably middle 20s at this point, But
I mean, I hope it's something that can be undone, but who knows?
all I'm going to say is, James, you've read 1 to 8, right?
Yeah,
Read number 9 and then maybe take a pause and then go back and read 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14, right? Yeah. And you'll see there will be answers coming. I can't say more. I don't want to say more than that.
no, that's okay. Well, we'll have to do a part 2, like I said, Joe, of
Definitely.
Aquaman's.
Has DC, now you've read this online, right? Was it part of a collection or single
I
issues?
read the first volume. Yeah, it's on Hoopla. It's Volume 1, Aquaman,
All 8 issues?
all 8 issues.
That's very good. I was, because usually they put 6 and it wouldn't work for this story.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like Jeremy's first run, yeah, Aquaman Volume 1, The Dark Tide is issues 1 through 8. It's all collected.
Oh, good.
So I don't know what they're going to make the next volume up of, because I guess maybe they'll do a
I know
smaller
what
volume
I know
before.
what they're doing.
Well, I'm saying I made, because I know Emperor of Aquaman probably starts a new run, so I don't know if they'll go for another 8 or they'll go for like because sometimes they'll make smaller trades of just like 4 or 5 issues to.
Well, 9 to 14, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah. It's, it would be a smaller trade, obviously, but I think that's going to be volume 2. And then I don't know how the Emperor Aquaman story is going to go. But I hope that we mentioned a few minutes ago that I'd like to see Aquaman meet Swamp Thing. I'd like to see them meet not on this Earth, but someplace in the galaxy because they can both travel that way. Obviously, when they're leaving Lost Atlantis, he tells Nemo, "Just go ahead, full speed ahead. I know how to get home." And he goes, "How do you know that?" He goes, I can read my way through the blue now. I can go anywhere," and he can also hear people's cries.
Jeremy's got to be like pulling from Alan Moore's like when Swamp Thing went to Ran and Hawk World and
Krypton. He went to the past and went to Krypton, right?
Yeah.
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 Oh yeah.
And that's an Alan Moore
Ooh,
event, which is like no problem stealing from the great, not stealing, but paying homage to the great Alan Moore.
Oh
like
yeah. I mean, if you're gonna steal from the best.
Yeah. I mean, but Alan Moore opened the gate for the elementals to be able to travel across the universe.
Transverse the galaxy and the universe, yeah.
And time.
Yeah, and time, yeah. Wow, can Aquaman do that? That hasn't been mentioned yet. But if he can go back in time. Also, something we haven't mentioned, there's a couple of scenes here with Thomas Curry that are beautiful.
They are beautiful. The lighthouse scene where he's like,
yeah, when the light goes out, and he tells them, we're here to help people. We're here to be the light, and I want you to grow up and do the best you can, be the best man you can be. And it kind of, I don't get weepy over comic books, but um, I got a little choked up reading that, and it also reminded me of the first Aquaman movie. I've never seen the second one because people tell me it's not that good, but I thought the best character in the first Aquaman movie was his father, and I loved how he just, all those years waited at the end of the pier for his wife to come back for Aquaman's mother, and she finally does, and it was a beautiful scene. And the way he brought up his son, yeah, it's he's very important to the story, Thomas Curry, and I'm
Yeah.
glad that Jeremy took time to do those few scenes with him and the young author.
I think he did it like again for my limited like from what I know of Aquaman. I This book was accessible to me, and I know very little about Aquaman.
That's good to hear. Okay,
I mean,
yeah.
I watched the movie. Like I said, I know from Super Friends. I know him from the Justice League cartoons how he's portrayed. That's probably like the most Aquaman I've seen is like the way he was portrayed in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. I know him from the JLA run.
What about Batman Brave and the Bold, where he's portrayed as this blustering operatic? He's always singing. He's always prancing around with his
I
chest
did.
puffed
I
out.
actually have not. I think I've seen maybe one episode of Batman Brave and
Those
the
are
Bold. But
hysterical.
he was did he made an appearance in Superman the animated series too? I think Aquaman.
Yes, he did, and he was very angry about the land dwellers dumping their crap into the ocean.
Yeah.
And Lois Lane, of course, tries to get the story, and at the end, he pops up with the Atlantean army and basically says, I'll be back, and I'll bring these people back with me if you don't clean up your act. And even Superman's like, whoa, okay, yeah.
That was good. That was good. Like, well, we always talk about the Batman animated series, but the Superman animated series had some great episodes too.
Oh yeah,
So,
the one with
and that was
Wally, the race with Wally is hysterical. That's
The Doctor Fate episode was good. The Aquaman episode was good. I mean,
the
they did some.
two-parter with Lobo.
Yeah, that was that was
Was a
good
great
stuff.
one too. That was a good one.
But yeah, me only knowing Aquaman peripherally, like Jeremy Adams. I said I'm like as I said like fantasy. I like certain fantasy, and it's like it's superhero fantasy. He's did
Yeah,
superhero fantasy, and it works very well. And you know,
I again, I should have pulled it. It's back there, but I don't want to, the camera. Um, when I was a boy, when I was, I guess, an adolescent, they when the regular people left the book, Bob Haney, writer, and Nick Cardy, DC gave the book to newcomers, Steve Skeets and this new guy who came over. They both came over from Charlton Comics. This new guy I never heard of before, Jim Aparo, and they did the multi-length story. This is before the Kree Skrull War, by the way. This is the first long multi-part story was done in the 40s with Captain Marvel. I think it ran 22 issues with the Monster Society. But I think DC did the first, Silver Age long form story, The Search for Mira. And there's a lot of magical things going on in there. It doesn't have the scope of this story, but there are different cities and towns that Aquaman goes to when he's trying to find Mira. There's a whole thing with Aqualad for one issue, where he's fighting this dragon that he runs across. So there's a lot. I think maybe Jeremy probably read that. If we ever get him on the podcast again, I'm gonna ask him, Jeremy, are you familiar with Aquaman: The Search for Mira? Because that's still my favorite Aquaman story of all time.
hmm.
Yeah.
What era? What time period? That's pre-crisis or post-crisis?
Oh, this is pre-crisis. This is late Silver Age. I believe the first issue was probably sometime in '68, and it ran into it was bi-monthly, probably about 8 or 9 issues. So it took about a year and a half to come out. I remember as a kid just waiting for, oh, I can't wait for the next issue to come out. I think that's when I really fell in love with Aquaman with that story. Yeah, that was the story that made that proved to me that he was more than a guy who could talk to fish. So,
Yeah. Well, it's just like, well, I mean, Aquaman is like, I know they always say that, but in terms of like, well, let's put everything aside. You're the hardcore comic book fan. What are Aquaman's baseline powers? Like, he's super strong, right? He has
yeah.
super strength and speed, and
Oh yeah, Jared. When Jeff Johns did the Aquaman series for the New 52, he made him bulletproof.
okay,
It made him as strong as a Submariner. When Rebirth comes about, there's the Aquaman book. There's one story where Aquaman is pissed off and he heads to the White House to have it out with President Obama, and he's got Mira with him, and Superman shows up and says, how you can't just walk in here like that and threaten the president. And they take it outside, and Mira and Aquaman bounced Superman around for a while. He had Might have been holding back a bit, but he's very, very strong, very powerful. Uh, in the ocean, no one's faster than Aquaman, not even Superman. You know, yeah, and swimming in the ocean. So now, of course, he's an elemental, which makes him. They refer to him as a god. You know, at some point in the story. So is he that? And if he is a god, you know, is he going to be corrupted by all that power? I think that's a distinct possibility. That story might be coming. But yeah, he's super strong, super fast, out of the water and in the water. He's invulnerable. He's very much like Submariner without the attitude.
Well, he's got his own attitude, I
He got his
guess.
attitude now. Yes, he does.
He's of his own, or and he has the hydrokinesis, and then he has
Yeah,
the telepathy.
yeah. I mean, you remember that Marvel DC? They had those the DC versus Marvel, and
Oh
so
yeah, yeah.
and Aquaman and Samaritan didn't last too long because Aquaman dropped a whale on him. I was like, oh yeah, it's my favorite one of the whole thing. He made shrimp out of shrimp cocktail out of Samara.
Well, Namor only has. I mean, he can fly
Can
above.
fly.
He can fly, and he has super strength and super speed, and he's bulletproof. But he doesn't have any. He can't talk to the underwater. He can't talk to
That's
underwater
been,
life.
what? Sometimes there's been hints that he could do that, but that's never been really canonized in Marvel. I don't think so. Maybe it wasn't in the Golden Age. There was a brief appearance of Torch, Human Torch, Captain America, and Namor in the 1950s, but it was like 4 or 5 issues of each, and it just disappeared, and didn't come back until the Marvel Age started in '61, and Samarin appeared in Fantastic Four number 4. Johnny Storm found him in the Bowery.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think at this point now, Aquaman would definitely wipe the ocean floor with the Submariner. Yeah, at
Yeah.
this point, yes, without a doubt. So yeah, he's very
Well, he's
powerful.
like, and you said, like he's as powerful now as any of the top three.
Yeah,
He's you know,
yeah, and you add to that he's a monarch, he's a warrior, he's a tactician. So going up against Wonder Woman, I would not, I can't, that's got to be a toss up. And even Superman at this point. But it's not inconceivable that Aquaman could beat Wonder Woman in a fair fight right now.
hmm.
Yeah, and maybe even Superman because of the control of the water because he's an elemental
Yeah.
and he's magic based, and Superman is vulnerable to magic.
Yeah. I like it, Joe. I like it. I mean, this is a great
Good story, right?
Yeah, this is a great jumping on point for Aquaman.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to make a plea out there. Steve Perel, I know you think, oh, Joe's losing his mind again. But no, you should give this book a shot. Hey, Steve, I'm up to issue 11 of Rom, and I am loving it. This book is so freaking cool. You talk about a book with action, adventure, thriller, espionage, and heel turns. I mean, from one issue to the next, you don't know who to trust because all these dire rates can look like human beings. So, and Steve told me that was his first comic book. That's the book that got him into comics.
wow.
Was Rom. So, Steve, give this a try. I think you might like it.
It's on Hoopla, Steve.
Yeah,
Richie.
Richie. Yeah, Rich. I think
Check
you'd
it.
like it. Hey, how about you, Arco?
And then, yeah, I guess before we wrap up, we could talk. We haven't done this segment in a while, and this is good. Like since this is part of the All In, I posted a little bit of this into Discord, but I finished Batman, The Long Halloween, The Final Halloween.
You liked it, right? I haven't finished.
I thought it was good. I thought it was good. Let's listen. The Long Halloween is a very high bar to match. Is this story as good as that? No, because it's the third part of a trilogy that maybe didn't need a trilogy, but I thought the story was good overall. It could be like Batman and Robin year 1.5 with
Oh,
where
okay.
it takes place.
Yeah.
Because Robin's definitely been around for a year at least. Yeah, I mean, some of the turns and some of the, like I said, some of it, if you're being really, if you just go into it like, okay, we're going to read this book, I think it's quality Batman. But if you're expecting like the same quality as Long Halloween or even Dark Victory, I think you'll be, you're probably not going to like it as much. But if you go in like knowing like it's a third part of a trilogy, and then obviously Tim Sale's not with us, so the artists I think all did a good job, and a lot of the artists try to put Tim Sale into their art a little
Yeah,
bit.
capture the mood of Tim Sale. Yeah, especially I was
So
looking through the issues last week. I've only read the first issue, but there is an issue there that's penciled by Samney. And if I can read 14 issues of Aquaman in one day, like I did this morning, I can read those 10 maybe tomorrow. Or
it's very fast. It's a fast read. So I enjoyed it. I also finished Absolute Wonder Woman Volume 2. I think that's a great book. I think that might be one of my favorite Absolute
I got to
books.
get to that. I finished volume 1, but not volume 2.
More magic and mystery.
I'm all for that.
So if you like Aquaman with the fantasy, you'll Absolute Wonder Woman is there, and then I've never read New Gods. I read Ram V's New Gods Volume 1. I personally liked it. It's
Yeah,
very
I haven't tried it.
it's very heavy in terms of the plotting of the. It's like I don't know what to describe it. Like he talks about the world before the New Gods. Like it's very like sort of an epic space operatic type of thing. And I've never been exposed really to the New Gods except for obviously I know Darkseid and Orion and Mister Miracle but like the actual characters, the New Gods, not on their own or appearing in other people's books I've not
Mm.
read. So I like it, but if you're a person, it reads a little bit like the Lord of the Rings with the level of detail they go into
Mm.
with sometimes the back history of the universe before this universe and the gods that existed to create the New Gods.
Well, well,
You
before the
know,
New Gods, they were old gods. I mean, it's one of the first lines in Kirby's New Gods. Yeah.
yeah, so I liked it, but I don't know if people are if a lot of exposition sort of like gets you down sometimes, then it might
No,
not be for
I
you.
grew up with that. That does we've discussed this many times in the past on this. I don't have a problem with exposition. Exposition, as long as it's written well and it doesn't go on too long, I don't have a problem with it at all. I
Yeah, so
understand
like
it's a necessary evil in fiction, exposition.
yeah, it's another I would it's another fantasy epic. The high because Darkseid's gone, the High Father thinks Darkseid is going to be reincarnated, so he sends Orion out to find and take care of a child who could possibly be Darkseid, but is the High Father really thinking correctly? And that's like the whole story.
Okay, but it's not connected to DCKO, right? It's something separate.
It's pre-KO, so
Yeah,
I
it's
think I think
pre-K.
it
Yeah.
leads into this whole all-in initiative.
Okay,
Like it's part of the all-in initiative. I don't know where it falls because I haven't read volume 2 just became available, so I don't know.
maybe in the second
I
volume.
think I mean I don't know, but it seems like I said, DC's doing a really good job of making all these disparate points like feed into the whole KO dark side initiative. Like everything is funneling that way.
I was
Um,
watching what was it, the MegaCon in Florida. I was watching the panel, DC panel, and Snyder couldn't say much, Scott Snyder, but we've just got through phase 2, and phase 3 is coming, and that's when it's all gonna when the stuff is gonna hit the fan, obviously. But there is a absolute universe event coming at the end of this year, but that's not the end of this story, by the way. So this all in story. So that he said that would be next year when we get to
okay,
part 3 of the all in story.
okay.
So yeah,
I listen.
where is
I
Superman right now? Right, where do you think Superman is right now?
Well, I haven't caught up on KO. I know what happens in
Oh,
KO.
okay, all right.
I know no no I know what happens in KO because I've listened to other comic book podcasts that have like I know what happens all the points in KO. I'll still read it. I think overall it sounds like a cool story from because I've heard you know I've gotten the weekly updates or the monthly updates on the story.
I have a
So
theory. He said at the end of KO, I have one more thing to do, and I have a theory that he's going to be looking for the Legion. Yeah, maybe put the
so
Legion back together again. I hope, because that book is supposedly coming by the end of the year. Legion written by the I wouldn't have said this a few years ago, but he's very very talented. Joshua Williamson. His Superman book is. I can't wait to get issue 36 with Superboy Prime on the cover, and because he's going to be taking over that book in Superman's absence.
well, I don't want to possibly spoil things. If I need to, I'll cut this out. But just so I understand, like the Legion no longer exists in continuity. Well, Superboy doesn't exist in continuity, right? So, like, what was I was like listening to a podcast where they were talking about the Legion or the Dark Legion. Like, there's a pocket universe where there is a Superboy, and that's who
Oh,
inspired
the
the
Pocket
Legion.
Universe that came about because after Byrne, did the revamp in Man of Steel, there was no Superboy, right?
Right. So
Yeah. So,
so the Legion existed in a pocket universe that it still had a Superboy.
yes, and
Okay.
there's a big story that where that Legion and that Superboy comes to Earth, the post crisis Earth, and there's a slugfest between Superman and Superboy, and that Superboy is Silver Age Superboy, who just mops the floor with, post crisis Superman. He's got no shot, and it crosses over into the current Legion of Superhero books at the time, and eventually, that Superboy is he they get rid of him. He
Okay.
dies.
Okay.
And,
And that Legion what stays in our post-crisis universe.
I don't think so. I don't know what happened to the Pocket Universe. I don't remember that. I do remember Superboy dying. I remember the cover where he's dead.
So is the I sorry audience we're getting and who knows if I'll keep this in or not, but I'm curious for my own self. But so is it when I like post crisis, all those Legions books that are post crisis, were they from a pocket unit? Because isn't the Legion like inspired by Superboy? So how do they exist in a world without Superboy?
Well, that's just it. It was a yeah. They do explain that. I don't remember. It's a long time. It's over 40 years
We
ago.
need like Jack.
You need Jack. That's right. We do need Jack. Maybe well, actually, I bet Keith knows this.
Or Keith or
So
Jack to like
yeah.
explain like
And then there's a time jump, the 5 year later Legion, which I didn't like. It was Keith Giffen writing and penciling. No, it was Tom and Mary Beerbaum writing and Giffen penciling, and it got really trippy. I thought,
I mean the only Legion I've read is Legion Lost.
which is very good.
That was very good.
Was that Abnett and Lanning at the top?
Something like that, but it was easy to read because they were in like a different sector of space. It was
Yeah,
only like 10 or 12 members of the Legion. So it was this very set cast.
that's something they got when they bring the Legion back. When Williamson brings the Legion back, and if he's going to have 26 members, like usually there's always 20 members or plus. You, the very last Legion book was in the 52 universe by Paul Levitz, who had been a Legion writer for decades and wrote some of the greatest stories, obviously the Great Darkness. But he made the mistake of writing all 26 Legionnaires, but putting them here, there, and there. So every time you picked up the book, you didn't know where you were. And there was no, and DC, back then, even now, well, they do it now. They give you a little recap now. They weren't doing recaps, and that didn't last too long, and I was very disappointed in that series. I don't need 26 Legionnaires in every story, or floating around. Do what they did in the old days. Like you have a roster, like the Justice League. 6 or 7, are on a mission. Everybody's back on Earth, or they're on another mission, but we don't see that mission until this mission is over. I don't like all that jumping around. I think it's not. I don't think it's good storytelling.
I mean, I started to read it in preparation for one day doing the Great Darkness saga on this thing, but like I was lost. I gotta be honest. I have to go back to it again, but I started reading like the complete Great Darkness saga on Hoopla, and I was like the first couple issues. I'm like, I don't know who any.
Yeah, it can be daunting because the Legion had really expanded at that point. Yes, yeah, very much so.
So, but I'll still give it a try because I do want to do that episode and be a part of it and be knowledgeable of it. But it was, I would say, for my brain, it was a little, like just there's just too many characters. There's so many characters. I'm like,
too many characters. Yeah.
Who's this? What's going on? And I'm jumping right in, like whatever the precursor is leading up to the Great Darkness saga. I'm sure looking back it'll be a precursor, but for me right now, since I don't know where it's going, I'm just being dropped into a middle of a Legion story. I'm like, what's going on in this?
Yeah, no, you had to read 20 years of Legion stories before that to know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, but anyway, we went on a tangent there, but well, Joe, obviously, thumbs up for Aquaman, Jeremy Adams run,
without a doubt, one of the best new comic books. By all the metrics, it's not selling as well as it should, but it's always reviewed well on almost all the review YouTube channels, and sometimes it's the pick of the week for some of these guys. They love it that much. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, audience, I Joe got me into it. It's worth the read. I think it's like it says, epic superhero fantasy. It's got myth, legend, action. It's. I think it's great. I think if you think you know who Aquaman is, then I would recommend picking this up. And
yeah, you'll be surprised.
If you have a picture of Aquaman and you think it's a character that's not for you, I would at least try the first couple issues out and see if that still holds true with the story.
Yeah, and the artwork is beautiful, by the way.
The artwork is beautiful. It's gorgeously colored.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who the colorist is. I apologize, but the colors are great. The pencils are great. The inks are amazing. The writing is wonderful. Jeremy Adams, having come from animation, like obviously, this was something I heard on another podcast,
Yeah,
on the podcast Comic Geek Speak. When somebody just came to Aquaman also, and they were saying like, Jeremy Adams' history of having read animated television, he knows how to tell a complete story in a single issue.
yeah,
Like you were not left hanging. The pacing's not off. It might be a part of a greater whole, but you can read a single issue and get a whole story as well.
that's something they did back in the day, especially in Marvel. Yeah, Stan and Jack and Roy Thomas and Jerry Conway and people like that. Archie Goodwin, yeah, they could tell a whole story as part of a bigger story. You always
Yeah.
felt like you got your money's worth. Back then,
Yeah.
12 cents or 15 cents worth.
And reading reading a second time, I thought it flies. Like the first time I was reading it, I felt like I was not slow, but I read in pieces. When I reread it for this podcast, it flew.
Yeah,
It flies
same
really
thing.
quick.
I did four. I read 9 issues at lunch, took care of some chores, went out, came back, and what the hell? I'm going to read up to 14. I'm going to be caught up when I get Emperor Aquaman number 15 next week. And I was so glad I did. Yeah.
So, audience, we will be back to Atlantis.
Yeah.
To talk about Aquaman, not Namor. Though at some point, I guess we talk Namor. But
Yeah, maybe we should do a Namor thing sometime. Although I'm not that well versed in Namor as I am in Aquaman. So.
All right, Joe. So I guess we're gonna head to the surface now as we wrap up this episode. But
we're gonna Captain Nemo's gonna take the Nautilus up to the surface. We'll break the surface, and Aquaman will have some porpoises to bring us ashore.
There you go. Well, Joe, no, every pun intended. Thank you for this deep dive into Aquaman with me.
You're welcome, James.
I learned a lot about the character. Obviously, we'll do part 2. I think there's still space at some point in the future for us to do Peter David's run, because I think at the very least, doing the first story arc of Peter David's run, I think is worth again pun intended.
The mini series in the first story arc, yes, combined, we could do that.
Yeah, and so listening audience, we thank you for joining us on this dive into Aquaman. Again, it's available on Hoopla. It's available at a Barnes & Noble or most bookstores that carry graphic novels. But, go to your LCS if you can, because they could always use the support and appreciate the support if you can buy a trade from them. If they keep the business going, keeping comics going and keeping writers and artists, in the business of creating is a worthwhile thing to support.
It certainly is.
So we thank you for listening, and we will talk to you on the next episode.